Okay, so Ben, a very, very warm welcome back to the show. First of all, how are you? You've been very busy.
Yeah, been busier than perhaps I would have expected to have been. Part of the busyness came to me when I was meant to be on holiday, but it literally just when Rupert and Nigel had their little bust up, that was basically the end of my holiday. But all in a good cause, all in a good cause.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Ben, I'm sure, everyone else that watches this channel, we all watched the news at Ben yesterday, and towards the end of that video, or really right at the end, you left us with a massive teaser, a great big carrot. A solution is on the way. What can you tell us, if anything?
So I mean, like I said yesterday, Nigel Farage isn't the guy. Reform isn't the party, for all the reasons that I explained on my little broadcast yesterday. And Rupert and I are very similar in at least one respect. We're very similar in many respects, but we're similar in at least one respect, and that is that we're not in politics because we want to be in politics. Actually, both of us, I think, hold our heads in our hands, thinking, how the hell did the country get to where it is? And is it really down to us to have to blooming rescue to
Yeah,
do this job? Um, but we are committed to the country. We're doing it because we feel this compulsion, a sense of duty, a commitment, an obligation, an indebtedness. All those things, motivate us to do what we're doing. And so, given that Nigel isn't the man, given that reform isn't the party, there's no alternative for Rupert and me to do anything other than try and find a solution. We have to find a solution because,
yeah.
we are where we are and we can't allow ourselves to continue like this. So, we will find a solution. I don't think it requires too much imagination to determine what kind of solution that might be. Um, and we just need to make sure that we've got all our ducks in a row,
Mm,
and then pull the proverbial trigger.
yeah. I mean, look, very exciting, Ben. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and look, feel free just to say pass because, like myself, I'm sure the audience will understand that at this stage it's very, very difficult for you. Um, so forgive me for asking one or two questions that you may not be able to answer, but they won't forgive me if I don't ask them. Okay, so
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, is there a direct dialogue between yourself and Rupert right now?
Oh, we're very good friends. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been good friends throughout even my dispute with Nigel. Rupert and I have always been kindred spirits, and we continue as kindred spirits. And you might have seen, and viewers might have seen, that I've absolutely put myself behind Rupert. I don't buy any of these trumped up charges against him. I forewarned him. I don't know if you saw that little tweet I put
I
out, Paul.
did,
I
yeah.
forewarned Rupert that they would try and trump up charge. Literally the day of the morning that he got his first blast from Reform, I had sent him a text saying, if I were you, I'd resign before they try and terminate your position because
Yeah.
their playbook is to trump up charges and then sack you, and then they hold the narrative because whatever you say after that, they say, "Oh, well, he's only bitter and twisted," like they did in my case.
Mm.
He's reacting. Really, he's in the wrong. So I think resign, get ahead of them putting out their cock and bull story. Um, but events move so quickly. But I was pleased in the sense that I had forewarned Rupert, and I think Rupert would have seen the danger, but I'm sure he was glad for the
Yeah.
warning because it illustrates, who your true friends are and who your not so true friends are.
Yeah. Do you think the situation with Rupert was maybe the final straw in the respect that since those allegations were made, a lot of people seem to have come out of the woodwork and are telling their story to kind of back up Rupert's claim. I mean, those people seem to have come out of the woodwork pretty much all at the same time and a lot of them as well.
Yeah, so I think what's been happening for year after year, decade after decade, is that Nigel Farage has been able to be the petulant narcissist doing that which he wishes and being able to cover his tracks effectively by throwing people under a bus, discrediting them, and removing their ability to defend their positions. But if I may say so, with me, he went, I think, a step a little too far. I think he may have been able to neuter me, but he went a little too far in that, I've got a reasonable voice, a reasonable public voice, and he couldn't just shut me down straight away. But I didn't have the voice Rupert's got. Rupert has many more followers on Twitter ever
Mm.
since Elon Musk endorsed him. His following, his social media presence has gone through the roof. He's also an MP, and he's a very highly regarded MP who's done a phenomenal job. Again, viewers will be very familiar with that. And so with Rupert, he definitely went a step too far. And what Nigel, I think, has forgotten is that most of the bodies he's created, most of the people he's thrown under a bus, he did it when there wasn't social media, when people couldn't come out and continue to have the position that Rupert and I have. And there's obviously been a kind of dam holding back the complaints against Nigel. And Rupert was the last straw, and that dam has burst. And people are now feeling emboldened to come out and speak, about Nigel in the way he's treated them. Nigel Farage has treated them. And I think great, because we've got to reveal the man for what he is.
I think he's under immense pressure at the moment. Do you think he's going to, ride out this wave, or do you think it's going to ultimately prove, a wave too far, as it were?
So there are two things at play. The first thing that Farage and people like Matthew Goodwin would like to continue to point at is what the polls are doing. And they'll continue to say, well, look, the polls are doing all right. And that may or may not be the case. I think eventually what's happening will seep into the British psyche. That it tends to happen that you have a fracas of the sort that we've had. Those of us who are very politically engaged know about it. And it just takes a while
Yeah,
for that to seep in. So that will happen, I think, over time. But more importantly, for reform, it is losing hand over fist. It is losing support in its grassroots. The
yeah,
grassroots who have been so badly treated, many of whom have been sacked and forced to resign, are coming up now. They're up in arms, but also lots of people who stay loyal. Let me just tell you, Paul, in the last 48 hours, I've had texts from people who are in reform, still working for reform, saying, if you and Rupert do anything, we're leaving, we're joining you.
yeah, yeah.
And that's because Nigel is not treating his Zia Yusuf is not treating the people well. He's not treating his grassroots well. He tramples on them.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, I wouldn't take too much comfort out of the polls if I was them, because the bottom line is, I mean, if we look at the forthcoming elections in May, the council elections, it's Hobson's choice for a lot of people. They're going to say they're voting reform because there is no other option in many respects.
Yeah.
So, I think if another party or another option was to come along, those polls could very quickly change. I mean, this is a tough one, but if I can ask, a lot of people feel that Elon Musk holds the keys somewhere down the line. Has there been any contact or dialogue between you guys and Rupert, or is that something that you can't really discuss at the moment?
I prefer not to discuss it, but I think
Understandable.
you're absolutely right that the transatlantic dimension is important. Um, Now, a lot of British people will understandably be suspicious of American interference in British politics, and nor should Americans interfere in British
Yeah,
politics. But the change that Trump is bringing about in the United States for America is precisely the kind of change that we need to bring about in this country to save the UK. So, a connection with the Trump administration is obviously would be fantastic and hugely helpful to the United Kingdom. And while I say that, can I just say one more thing? What Trump is doing for the US is going to hurt the UK. We mustn't misunderstand that. There are certain things he will do in the pursuit of putting the US first, which will hurt the UK. That doesn't mean he's not our friend.
yeah,
It
exactly.
just means that in the process of changing direction for the US, there's going to be some collateral damage. And what we need to wake up about in this country is that in order to mitigate that damage, in order to prevent it from being too bad, or indeed to take advantage of the changing landscape in the US, we need to similarly change our behavior and start
Absolutely.
doing what Trump is doing. So anyone watching this, and if this is watched in a few months' time and they're looking and saying, well, Trump hasn't been wholly beneficial for the UK, please bear in mind that what he's doing there is for the US and not for us. But he's leading a path which, if we were to follow that path, would be good for us. And that's the key thing. So, and in order to get us onto the right path, I think we must have a strong relationship with the most powerful democracy in the world. And so, if we're able to establish one, that would be
That'll be
terrific.
good. Yeah. Last question, Ben, because I know you're super busy. What would any potential new setup look like in the respect that how inclusive would it be? And also, obviously we've all got our eyes on the pack as well. We've watched that grow
Yeah.
and it's brilliant, a great idea. Would you hope to be able to bring in just about anyone and everyone from the centre right into a unification party, if you like, or an organisation where everyone can get their teeth into it, where you can have an absolute army of campaigners, leafleters, everyone get together and unite this country?
So there are two differences, I think, between the way reform is being operated and the way anything else that may emerge would be operated. And that is that Rupert and I absolutely believe in the British people, and we would wish to take our lead from the British people, and there would be no segregation amongst the British people. There certainly wouldn't be any that lot, and everyone would be very welcome to vote for us. Everyone would be very welcome to join us. We're not going to decide who is worthy of being in anything that we may do. Everyone is worthy. If they're British citizens, they are worthy. And so we will have a very big tent approach to how we do things. And we would wish to have as much support across the country as possible. And we would empower that support to the maximum extent possible. And I think the other mistake reform has made is try to concentrate power right at the top.
Yeah,
Farage doesn't actually believe in his membership. He keeps talking about how his membership would, there'd be problems in managing the party. You wouldn't be able to keep you'd have swivel-eyed. I think he thinks you'd have swivel-eyed lunatics running the show, but that's not right. That's not the British people. And I think he does the British people a disservice. He does himself a disservice. He's doing reform a disservice. He's doing the country a huge disservice with that attitude. And our attitude will be inclusive, big tent, everyone's welcome. This is to save the country, and only the country can save the country. In fact, I think we would go so far as to say, listen, buddy, you guys want to save the country, you better start doing some hard work alongside us too.
absolutely. Well, Ben, look, I'll finish by saying that since you dropped that video yesterday, my phone, my email has been alight with people telling me that yourself and Rupert have ignited a hope in the British people. And on behalf of them, I want to thank you and Rupert for doing everything that you do. Wish you all the very best. And,
Oh, thank you. Thank you,
w-
Paul. And can I just say thank you for all you do? Thank you to all your supporters for what they do.
thank
And
you.
it is a team effort. It is
Absolutely.
absolutely, this is the thing that we've really got to come to we've got to not just come to terms with, we've got to understand it's a team effort. That's what it is. And it will only
Absolutely.
succeed if we all pull together.
Well, Ben, I love it. And I know that, as I said, it sparked a lot of excitement. I wish you well. Get back to doing what you do.
Thank
And
you.
I'll see you soon. All the best.
Yeah, brilliant.
Love
Thanks,
to
Paul.
Rupert as well.
Yeah, will
Thank you,
do.
Ben.
I'm sure he
Cheers.
sends his. Yeah.
Thank you.